Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to discuss with you a little bit about boundaries and the importance of boundaries for the anxious, preoccupied attachment style who tends to get love and infatuation confused and can sometimes stay stuck there for very prolonged periods of time. So this is sort of a follow-up around what we were discussing in the past video with the anxious preoccupied, which is how they sort of confuse love at different stages of the relationship and how sometimes it prevents them from progressing fully into the future stages of relationships because of the way they perceive or expect love to be at a subconscious level. So I'm going to dive into this, and then I'm going to dive a little bit into strategies. And then, the number one strategy I'm going to go through with you is about boundaries and how a boundary is a joining, not a separation. And the important part of a boundary is the act of taking yourself into consideration when making decisions with others in your relationships and in just your day-to-day life across all 7 areas. So before I dive into that, super quick, we are supporting our community as much as possible right now. We are offering 25% off all single course purchases or membership bundles for 3 months, 6 months, etc. And we're doing a money-back guarantee if anybody's financial situation changes or anything crazy happens. And we're also encouraging our current members to upgrade their memberships to receive that discount during this time. So anybody who's interested, reach out to our customer service team. The coupon code is all one word. It's with you. And you can just punch it in at the checkout and it'll give you the 25% off. So please jump in, join our community, and we are really pushing connection. We originally were doing 2 live webinars a week. We're adding a 3rd webinar almost every week. We have mastermind groups, breakout sessions going on inside the community, a members lounge where there's Q&A. Like, we are doing as much as we can to really help meet some of those needs that are basically being taken away to a certain degree right now because of the isolation. So connect with us if you need scholarship opportunities, anything like that. Share a little bit about your financial situation. Reach out to info@personaldevelopmentschool.com and we are going to support you. So how the anxious preoccupied, also, by the way, we give money back guarantees if anybody has a problem with the content or doesn't receive tremendous value out of it. And since launching the school, we haven't had one person do that. So you'll get a lot out of the content as well, and the learning and the whole process, especially if you apply yourself and do the exercises. It's, we've seen some really amazing transformations with students. So let's talk about this for a second. Yesterday we were going through and we were talking about how the anxious preoccupied individual confuses love with infatuation, or sometimes goes from being attracted to somebody to feeling attraction and then having feelings so quickly that they may even just be feeling attraction and confusing that with romantic feelings or deeper feelings, okay? And the reason for this, and part of the reason that the anxious preoccupied can hold on so tight in relationships at times is because they associate this need for connection, depth, closeness as really filling this bucket and solving a problem that they carry at a subconscious level in their nervous system. It's a trauma response. It's that neediness, that intensity, all those feelings that you can get in a relationship, that's a trauma response because of early subconscious wounds that you might have gone through, that basically in your childhood with the relationship to your primary caregiver and attachment figure, we know that we're completely dependent on our caregivers for survival when we're young. We know, like, without them, we are literally going to die. So when there's an inconsistency in that caregiver relationship where you feel like they're really close to you and then all of a sudden they pull away because they're working a lot or there are things happening in their lives, you perceive that as like a total lack of safety. And then the subconscious mind goes into overdrive to try to fix that wound and heal that bucket. And so there seems to feel at a subconscious level like there's this sort of deep hole there, like waiting to be filled. And that tries to get filled by the subconscious mind through relationships with new primary attachment figures in your adult romantic relationship life. And so, this seeming separation in your life can create this really intense trauma response. And sometimes an anxious, preoccupied individual can confuse the degree of that trauma response with meaning the degree of the strength of the love that exists in the relationships. And that sometimes can be the case. Like, yes, we can have a big fear of loss that comes if we don't work on that, if we really, truly, deeply love and desire somebody. But that's not the gauge for love. That's the gauge for a fear based on the degree of attachment you have. And more often than not, that's not even about the degree of love that you have. It's about the degree of the wound that exists in the subconscious mind. So it's just a really important thing to take note of. And when we want to really start working to transform these things, okay, we have to start recognizing what these underlying fears are so we can address them with healthier strategies, okay? So for example, let's say that your expectation of love is that there's like perfectionism, there's a lot of closeness in the relationship all the time, you're never really apart. And really, that's your expectation of love, because that's your expectation at a subconscious level for what checks the box for feeling safe, right? It's like, if I can get this close and this connected, then it checks the box because I won't lose the person, I won't feel unsafe. And that's what you're yearning for and hoping for. But they're actually separate things. The person externally isn't going to fix that wound. In fact, usually the more attached you get to the person externally, the more the wound can be triggered and activated and become more painful. Usually like one sort of triggers or sets off the other. And so what you really want to do is fix that wound internally, so it doesn't have to become so strong with your external relationship, so you can navigate the relationship effectively, which will help you move out of the honeymoon phase into the power struggle stage, work through the power struggle stage effectively, so you can get into the stability stage, the commitment stage, and thus the bliss stage of the relationship, which is like the honeymoon stage, but with like proper communication, really understanding each other and your needs effectively, really working through things as a unit, really like accepting each other's flaws and seeing each other at deeper levels. Like that's what you're trying to get to. And if you don't heal that internal wound, what ends up happening instead is often anxious, preoccupied individuals try to keep recreating or staying in the honeymoon phase of the relationship, and they stunt the growth in the life cycle of a relationship as a result, because they don't get to move into the next stages, where part of the rites of passage of those stages are to integrate our senses of self more fully, to share more, to communicate more deeply, accept each other's flaws, take each other's boundaries into consideration. And if we try to stay in the honeymoon phase and hold on to that there, we stunt the growth of the relationship in its life cycle, and we, at an accidental level, subconsciously self-sabotage the relationship without meaning to. So there's a whole bunch to say about this, honestly. I go through this a ton in the advanced anxious attachment style course inside the school, where we talk about like the relationship life cycle itself and the different patterns, protest behaviors, challenges that the anxious preoccupied can go through, and what to actually reprogram and how to do it in each of those stages. So it's very specific, but for the sake of this video, specifically when it comes to how you expect love to be and how to sort of work through those expectations, one of the most important things you're going to do first is communicate and ask your partner what love means to them. And you're going to be able to recognize, for different individuals, love is like stability, certainty, understanding, depth, closeness, trust, fulfillment. And sometimes for the anxious, it's like passion, excitement, lust, infatuation. And it's important to recognize that it's, you know, the combination of all those things together. It's not the polarized version. And to see that your partner might see love as something different, or your loved ones around you, and to understand their perspectives when you go back into a relationship in the future, is so important for your overall growth in terms of how you handle relationship dynamics. So that's really important. And number two, your boundaries. There is so much to say about boundaries. I'm going to do a whole separate video on boundaries. I actually just changed our course schedule in the school because so many people wanted more in-depth content about boundaries. So that's one of our two courses, that and how to heal from a breakup, are coming out this month. But really, just to really drill down to the very bottom and give you sort of like a simplified answer of what boundaries are the expression of your feelings and needs in a relationship. And you can think of the boundary as like the imaginary line that separates you from others, but it's in a good way, because boundaries show people how you want to be treated, that you don't want to be taken advantage of. It shows who you are. And I like to think of it as like, seriously, an authentic expression of your sense of self. And so rather than this separation I think that we tend to sort of think boundaries are, it's a separation between two people. A boundary is a joining between two people, because it is you truly showing up, tuned into yourself, expressing yourself authentically and honestly to others. And this is one of the most important things that a relationship requires. It requires honesty, authentic self-expression, and authentic expression of self in general. And so a boundary is a joining, it is not a separation. And so becoming successful at setting boundaries really means, it really requires this art of being able to tune into yourself while you're in relationships with others, while you're making decisions, okay, or while people have objections. There's so much to say about boundaries. Like, we have a boundary identification process, a communication process, a framework. You know, there's different types of boundaries. We've got our time boundaries, our mental, emotional, physical, sexual boundaries. And you know, there's a lot to say about boundaries as a whole. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a follow-up video about boundaries. I do have a longer form video coming out tomorrow, just about a whole bunch of Q&A stuff from inside of our community, and a little bit of it addresses boundaries too. But if you want a long form video, let me know. We have that course coming out this month in a tremendous amount of detail, and it really discusses and fine tunes like why specifically anxious, preoccupied, and fearful avoidance struggle with boundaries the most, and how it has a lot to do with attachment trauma. So there's a lot of really amazing information there that honestly everybody should know, because healthy boundaries are probably one of the top 3 things that impact the overall health and longevity of our relationships. But let me know in the comments if you want more info. Keep me posted. I'm going to be trying to do a daily video here and support the community as much as possible. So whatever you guys want to see more of, let me know. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.